Land acknowledgements are often presented in shared spaces where we gather in person. But on a podcast, we recognize that each one of us occupies space on Indigenous land. We call on you, our listeners, to acknowledge that Indigenous people are the original inhabitants and caretakers of this land and have distinctive and sovereign rights and responsibilities that are directly connected to the land, community, culture, and knowledge.
With this in mind, please take time to find out what territory you are on at native-land.ca and support our amazing Indigenous firecrackers like Marie Clements and her new feature film, Bones of Crows, coming soon. Find out more information about this amazing film at bonesofcrows.com. Hey everyone, I'm Naomi Sneakus.
And I'm Amanda Brugel.
And this is the Blaze Sessions. Oh, Amanda, this is a big day today.
Naomi.
You've got like a lot going on. We're actually recording 2 today, which we did a wardrobe change for. Proud of that.
Yeah, no one needs to know, but now they do. I thought we were going to be secret, but that's fine.
I tell everybody everything. How's the pace of your day going?
It's like every day, frenetic, crazy, but I like it. I like it that way. When it slows down, I get weirded out.
Yeah.
I was hungover the other day and I was a slow day and I do not like it. I don't like, I always have to be like you. I always have to be doing something.
No, I'm different. I never post pictures of me watching back to back episodes of Below Deck. But like, what's your life like? What does it look like when Amanda Brugel stops? Is she just like, I gotta organize the spice drawer. I gotta clear out the jewelry cabinet, closet.
Yeah.
I don't know how much jewelry you have.
I do clear out my jewelry closet a lot. Yeah. No, it's part of having chronic anxiety and being just like serious. I'm not making a mental illness joke, but it's part of being so driven and so high functioning. You don't stop, and then when you do stop, you feel like a failure, and it's very difficult to take it easy and take time. I'm only able to do that when I'm traveling.
Yeah, but so how do you
But then
do
when
that?
you're traveling, you're still doing something.
Yeah, like don't you want to have moments of like nothingness so that you can see what comes your way?
Oh, that almost made me throw up. No, it's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I don't relate to it whatsoever. I want to want that. I want to want that. I just can't. It's very difficult to slow down, or it's very difficult to just be.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's a change. For me, it's like going from like back-to-back meetings, appointments, things to like cottage, got back-to-back chopping wood, planting flowers, that kind of intense schedule.
It's the same thing then.
Yeah.
It's the same. You're just always, there does need to be more quiet. I do need to leave more quiet. Recently, a driver on the show I'm doing in Chicago, she gave me a black rock. I think it was tourmaline, and it's supposed to like take all the negative energy out. And it's the only thing I do it 5 minutes a day. I hold on to it and I stay still and I think about all of the things that are good in my life. And I've been doing that for a month. So that's still.
I don't know. There seems like something shifted in you. I just feel like in the last, I don't know, maybe since your pop died, like there's things that have, and of course you've got stuff going on with divorce and stuff, but there's a big shift. Yeah.
A shift in like slowing down or speeding up?
No, and just like a presence.
Thank you. Is that good?
I mean, look, I struggle with it. I have anxiety as well. And I kind of go like, I can find it rising. And then I'm like, why am I doing the thing that causes me anxiety? As opposed to, why don't I learn to embrace anxiety, embrace the stress? Like, what are you doing for your anxiety?
I hold the rock in the mornings.
Great.
But it really does make a difference. I like it. But I think just, you know what it is too? I think not taking things as seriously, which is such a silly cliche thing to say. As I age through menopause, as I'm hitting a certain place in my life, I'm like, I'm middle-aged now. I've kind of done the things. Let's not stress out. I'm gonna die soon. Not soon, but it's not this way. It's going this way.
Sooner than
just
yesterday.
Easy. Yeah. Let's get to our guest.
I mean, speaking of soon, I will always come through with a very bad segue. But speaking of soon, let's get to our guest soon. Over to you. Oh, she
Oh my
jumped
God.
in. Let's
No,
Is that
no,
too
she
Oh
did.
no, it's too soon.
No,
Bye.
no, stay.
I thought it would be like, speaking of death, and I'd be like, hello. Sorry.
Well, spoiler alert.
She don't.
Right. She can't. I mean, I don't blame her.
People
It's a
might
good
not.
time here.
People might not know though. Let me get to my
Oh.
guest. This guest, I've known this guest the longest out of all of our guests because we went to university together. And the moment I spotted her and she opened her mouth and I saw her act, I was like, this is the most talented person in the school. She was a painfully shy child, but she is now an award-winning actor, director, and producer. She holds two certificates of distinction in speech and drama from Trinity College London in the UK, where she also studied naturopathic medicine, which I did not know. On stage, she has performed with Soul Pepper Theatre Company, the Canadian Stage Company, Nightwood Theatre. Her directorial debut, A False Sense of Security, won a special jury mention at the annual Asian Film Festival in Dallas, Texas. Her voice can be heard on several animated series like Japan Sinks 2020 and White Snake 2, and video games like Far Cry 4, which my son would die. You all will know and love her on series like Transplant and Sort of, and as the lead in the new procedural Winchester and Wong, which I watched 2 episodes of, and I freaking love it.
Love it.
She is gorgeous and witty and versatile and one of the most talented performers I have ever known. I've said that before. And she's blonde. You've already seen it. Listeners, put your hands together for Lynn Kung.
Jump the gun. But
Who
I am
wouldn't
blonde.
recognize you? You popped in and people were like, who is that blondie?
Hello. Yes, and it's Wong and Winchester, and I'm saying that specifically because you know what? We don't always get to be number ones, and for the first time in my life,
oh my God,
one, so.
it's Wong and Winchester. I thought it was
Yes.
Winchester and Wong.
No, it is
Thank
Wong
you for the
and
correction.
Winchester. Yeah,
Is that the
I
first
love
time
it,
you're
Grace.
number one on a call sheet?
first time ever.
I
Yeah.
find that shocking. I looked at your resume. I'm like, man, you've done some amazing work, like in such great shows out of the gate. Like
Yes.
sort of like there's in Security, there's such great shows that you've been part of.
Yeah, first time as the number one.
How's that?
And
How's that world?
That was my first question. What's that like? And what has been the greatest surprise and also just the most difficult part?
We're just jumping right in, Grace.
Let's get into it. I know
hat.
we already talked about death, and now, I mean, I've been asked this in interviews before, like, what is it like? And it's like, well, this is not anything. I don't know if Amanda identifies with this, but it's not anything that I ever thought. I never dreamed. When people are like, how did you dream? And I was like, this is just not a reality in the world I grew up in, the space that I saw that was happening in the industry. It just, there wasn't that space actually. And I remember getting out of school and thinking, like, oh, theater is going to be my bread and butter. Like, theater is going to be where I live. And maybe if I'm lucky, I'll do like a film, maybe once in a blue moon. And then I got out and I remember being like, no one would see me. And then I was like really very interested in being in Saltwater Moon for whatever reason. And with anytime I saw that a theater company was doing it, I would write them and I'd be like, listen, I know it's not conventional casting, but I would really love to, if you would hear my materials and all of that. And no one ever wrote me back. And it just became clear that space wasn't, there wasn't that space. It wasn't available. It wasn't open. And then I ended up in film and television, and that was slightly more open. And I think you just keep slogging. You keep, like doing the army crawl until you start to learn a bit more, and like maybe people will see you for different things. So it was never a thing to ever even imagine that number one possibility existed. And so it's a bit surreal. You're just kind of going with the immense amount of work that you have to do, because we shot it in Quebec, in Montreal, and that system moves real fast. So sometimes we were like 13, I think one day there were 20 pages on the call sheet, which is absolutely absurd for context, for people who don't read call sheets, you're getting 7 or 6 most days. Like, that's usually what you shoot. But yeah, our page count was often average 13 and sometimes much more than that. So the pace at which you are moving.
God.
Yeah, exactly. That's bonkers. That's absolutely bonkers. You can sometimes spend.
Well, it also shows the difference between the budgets that we have here in between here in the States. Like, for example, Handmaids, we shoot 2.
Yes.
2.
Yeah. Sometimes you
Two
shoot a
pages, like
quarter
you
of
have
a
that
page.
long
Yeah.
of a page, but then with Canadians and just the budgets, it just that's why I think Canadian performers ultimately are so talented, because you have to move at a pace that's incomprehensible. But like 13's nuts, Grace. That's not normal.
Exactly. So it felt a bit like the car was on fire going, down the freeway 50 over what you're supposed to, and you just have to be on it. So I don't know how much smelling of the flowers. If a flower hits you in the face, you smell it, but like that's probably
Yeah.
that's probably about it. But I think one thing that I did feel as the number one on this, because there was such a pace, is that I felt very responsible for everybody who came on set. I felt very responsible for our crew, because it was such a breakneck pace, and that was very different, because I felt like when people show up and they're only going to be there for the day, maybe they drove in out of town, they're not always comfortable speaking up if something feels uncomfortable, or if, so I felt that was a difference. And that's also a wonderful privilege, but also like you kind of really, your view, your vantage, your purview is quite wide in that way. So on top of just like trying to get enough sleep, which is like average 5 hours at best, and trying to, after a big long day of like, that many pages, having to memorize that many more pages for the next day, because you can't stockpile that many lines. It's not possible. So
No.
yeah.
But it looks like, from to me, it looks like, I mean, and there's like, some, I would say it's a procedural buddy cop-ish, in which it's not, you're not police officer, you're a private eye and another private eye in training. So it's sort of a standard sort of format, but there's so much fun. Like, I'm shocked to hear that it was at such a breakneck speed, because the cast seems to get along so well. The chemistry between the two of you is phenomenal, and it seems like there's so much fun. So it didn't come off as
That's
hectic
good.
or erratic.
Yeah, we had a good chemistry test story, because I flew in for a day to do the reads. I think I read with four potential Sarahs. And when I read with Sophia, at some point during our read, like some technical problem went down, and they were trying to fix it for like 10-15 minutes. So Sophia and I just spoke. And we were so, from the get-go, we were just the conversation was very chill. When you're meeting someone in that kind of environment too, like even just like regular conversation, you get a bit of like the eyes, oh, how, and so to have someone where you have, like a normal conversation, and it's very easy. It's like a really smooth first date. Like you already know each other better. We just had like a really good vibe. And I think the team saw it. And then afterwards they were like, okay, great. When we come back, let's bring like this energy in, like I think we talked about, like going back and forth to LA sometimes. And we're really very easy. And I felt like with Sophia too, when we read, Sophia really, because that kind of environment is so tough. You're being tested. You've seen all your competitors in the room. You're waiting there, getting so intense. And so it's very difficult to like actually be able to like, sometimes you leave those and you're like, I don't know what anybody looks like. I don't remember anything. But I felt like with Sophia, she like really, I saw her and I feel like she saw me. And I think that if anything, the show was based around that chemistry, like you were saying, like, I think the two of them as Marissa and Sarah really do work, and you enjoy hopefully spending time with them. And I think that's really cool about, because it literally is, you're just like, what's the chemistry like between these two humans? Because that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at your resume and thinking like all these characters. Can you see a consistency in the characters you play? Like, can you see the thing? And I think it's interesting, because I always have this idea that we are learning from the roles that we're given, and it's a story that we need to tell, that these characters come to us. Do you see that? Do you see a consistency in the characters that you've been playing?
I mean, early on, maybe, because I think, but I would classify that more as typecasting, very black and white ways of seeing how the world perceives me. But I actually think I would maybe describe it as like my journey through life and therapy. Like I actually feel like
what therapy you're dealing with at different roles.
Well, because hopefully it's a bit of like, it's revealing hopefully more of yourself. So it's like, as you are open and exploring more of that and finding that hopefully vulnerability. Like I remember hearing Andrew Scott talk about who's brilliant in Fleabag, but I think he started off, I think his big breakthrough was the villain in Sherlock, I think it was.
He was amazing.
So he spoke early on about how villains really appealed to him when he was starting. He really found like that was something that not exactly hiding behind, but he could express himself through that. And as he grew as a performer, that he felt okay showing the other sides, not having to have that that box that the villain sits in, that you're a little more open and free. And that's my hope, is that as I go, it's like I'm able to access more vulnerability in my life, and that I've hopefully learned more about life that I can feed into the characters, even if they are on the outside seemingly having all of these things. Like Marissa is a very specific character on the outside, but I love her because I feel like I understand why she's that way, and that actually she's got a major fucking heart and cares so much, and that's actually why the world is like atrocious in her mind, and she has to react the way that she does. So hopefully like that's more the trajectory in this space, that the roles kind of like have strung together, or are following me, or I'm following them. You know.
I know, you never know. You're so versatile in what you do and what you find or what finds you. And as someone who also does comedy and drama, like sort of hops back and forth, is that intentional? Do you prefer one or the other? Like a sort of is closer to a comedy, I would suppose. This is also Wong and Winchester is comedic, but there's still many dramatic moments.
Feels like there's a foot
like, is
in
there
both
one
worlds.
genre? Is there one genre that you prefer over the other?
I think that as I've kind of like tried to discover more as a human, I actually find that like I'm not a big label person. Like I went through what I call like an age renaissance. I remember once I was working with someone and he wouldn't talk about his age. And I was like, oh, come on, man. Like, just like,
He
get
a
over it.
man?
Yeah. He wouldn't talk about his age. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, get over it. I was like, I said my friend's name and I was like, oh, come on, get over yourself. And as he started to talk about it, I really was like, you're right. He was like, people use, especially in North America, people use age as like a marker of like knowing immediately who you are, or they box you and they go, this is the space you're allowed to exist in, or this is how I automatically. And in a way, it's almost like they stop listening to your information. They just base it off the box that they put you in. And kind of after I had that conversation, I started to really like examine what that was in my own brain. Because I was like, it really is bullshit. Like, it doesn't tell you necessarily people's references. It doesn't tell you their personality, because sometimes those people they don't identify with that gender, you know, like, I just think I really started to like separate from a lot of these. Like, I understand we use labels and categories sometimes to speed it up, but for me, I was like, I think we also use them sometimes to stop listening to one another, like to really just meet people wherever we are, because life moves too fast, and we need to be able to like be like, who are you now? And then do I need to spend time here? Am I off? You know? And I think that's one thing that I really took from that actually like kind of shifted my life a lot. Like, I, of course, am curious. And then I was like, but I'm going to stop caring. And I actually haven't asked anybody since then. And I really love it. And sometimes people just like want to tell me. And then I stop talking about it too. And I kind of love it. And so I think with that, I never feel like, I kind of love that, like, sort of, I'm like, is it a drama? Is it a dramedy? Like, where I love this amorphous space. I think the beauty is that it exists in this like amorphous space where we don't have to like define, is it a 22-minute comedy? Is it a 44-minute comedy? Is it a 44-minute drama? Like, life just straddles all of that for me. And I think I like it when I feel like work does that too, as much as we can. Cause I think, yeah, we're very label intense, you know, like awards and all of that. We love to do this, you know, which is an interesting conversation now with opening gender categories, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I always want to ask, people are like, well, what is it like to change that? And you're like, well, why did we have it in the first place? Let's talk about that,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's it like to have not changed it? Isn't it like 2023?
But also like, why was it gender split that way, in the first place? Like, I think like when we kind of walk that back and really think about, why did we do that? And what is that
there
saying?
were so many good, like amazing women in those categories that they were like, they'll just keep winning. Let's make sure that the guys can have a fair shake at it and give them a separate category. That's Naomi's.
That's Naomi's.
That's my myth. I don't know. You can, but I would love, Grace, can you, I've been watching you on Sort of, and I feel like these discussions are sort of these great little moments and peering into behind the curtains a little bit in your process, because I've seen your work before in different things on stage and on screen, but the role, it sort of seems like you had to really go deeper and, well, maybe not deeper, but just in a different direction. Can you talk about your process and if it was different from other projects?
I don't know that it's different. I think you're just always looking for a role that gives you the opportunity to do all these things. And I'm fortunate that Bessie exists in that space. So like, because really, if we watch season 1, I laid in a bed, for the majority of the season, I was in a coma, so if it ended there, that was it. But like when I auditioned, obviously I knew there was more, and I gleaned that there was something in like my audition scene, which was the season 1 in the bar with Bilal, with Subby. I already had that arc in mind. And again, I don't know what they've written for season 3, but it was very much in line with the end of season 2. That's kind of like what I had inferred and carved out in my brain, that messy sort of, again, that blurred lines, the can't be defined, unlabeled sort of confusion that I think is so beautiful and really speaks to me as a human being now. So I feel very blessed for them to have created this space for Bessie, and for me to have gotten to live in it and express all of these things, because I feel like those questions are things that I have in my real life about like, what's connection? What's the difference between love? What different types of love? What is true? Real life is so messy, and it is confusing, and love is confusing, and it's never packaged the way. Things don't end like they do with a typical rom-com. It's just not like that, And so I think I always, exactly, and I think those are misleading. Just as they were first racially, like like people of the global majority, it's like like what that gets packaged of and how you get to exist. It's almost like you see it so much defined in your culture that you almost start to live that, even if that's not true to you. Does that make sense to you, Amanda? Do you identify with that? Like,
very much so. Very much so. Very much so. Yeah. Well, it leads me to another question. It's that when we both started, and you saying there wasn't very much space for you, I certainly felt that, but I recognize how much space there wasn't at all for anyone in the AIP community, like at all. Only because I have cousins that, like, I have brown family members that wanted to get into the arts kind of at the same time, and there wasn't a chance in hell. And so I'm wondering if with characters like Bessie and like what's your character's name? Wong, what's her first name?
Marissa.
With Bessie and Marissa, if you're seeing, it's been a significant amount of time, if you're finally seeing change in which you can fully be a nuanced 3-dimensional artist, if you're seeing those roles coming your way, if you're seeing an opening, or if these are just anomalies, like these roles. If you're seeing a shift, like an actual shift.
It's tough because there has been change. My belief in power is it's not empowerment if you cannot pass it on intergenerationally. So if people are being moved to the forefront and being displayed, and they cannot pass that onwards to their community and the people behind or beside them, that's not real. That's tokenism, which we've experienced a lot of. And it's a very razor's edge, because what it always comes down to for me, who is in power, who are creating, who are funding, who are making these decisions. Because if I'm seeing only change that gets front loaded in front of the camera to be like, look at us, there's change. I don't always consider that change. I call that tokenism, because it hasn't fundamentally changed the basis of power of who gets to create, which are the people. The reason that sort of, I think, is so beautiful and nuanced to me, and that I think it's spoken to so many communities, is because one of our creators is Bilal. And Bilal's perspective and existence as a human being, and now existence in this business and this industry, is what is the fundamental, like, it's the point at which all of it stands on. And so for me, that's a very nuanced discussion, because it's like, who is it changing for? Has it changed for real? Or, you know, some things can be the same on the outside, but what is behind the scenes is what matters. And so I think it's beautiful that now I am getting to see BIPOC individuals who are fully fledged, that actors who always had this fucking fire and this talent I'm getting to see them do their stuff. They're not confined to a role where they're just spouting information about, you know, like in a procedural about the person who died, but they do not matter. They do not affect anyone else. They don't have attached lovers or families. And that matters, because that also informs us, like, we're allowed to exist in society, and that has implications. But I love to see that, you know, I really do love to see that. But I feel like a lot of the discussions when people are at the forefront, you know, a lot of that we were worried about with Marissa. Does she have to be likable in a different way? Like, you could say she's outwardly not likable at all. She's very mean. She's a little toxic. She has terrible relationships, but you know, and I love that. I think that's great. I adore it, because I love to see humans as they really are. But there was a lot of thought of I know, but Marissa's the lead of the show, and she's an Asian woman, and we've seen very specific spaces for Asian women, just in terms of also what an Asian woman looks like, what she gets to look like. You know, like Gemma Chan is unbelievable. She's talented, but I don't look like Gemma Chan. You know what I mean? I don't sound like Gemma Chan. And it's just how are people going to respond to, and how they feel about Marissa? Is that going to be how they feel a little bit about, I don't know, if you don't have a lot of this rep, is that going to reflect, you know, it's tricky, line, right? Huh? It can be. But
what are those discussions like that for you? Because you're in a power position now. I remember Sandra Oh saying to me once in a panel that she said, whatever power you have, whether it's a lot of power or little power, use it to find equality. So you're in a place now that you can actually have that discussion of this is where I want my character to go, or if you see it going in a direction you don't like. What are your discussions like on set? I
mean, I don't think I have more,
but you do. I mean, more than you did when you're number 75.
Yes, of course. I mean, people have to. But I'm not involved in. I'm not. I mean, every show is different, but I'm not involved in. I can steer where things go. And things that have come off the page are because I played them that way. Right. They've actually in the show, they kept a lot of the stuff that we ad-libbed. A lot of improv has made it into the show. A lot of times the buttons are completely improv.
Oh, good.
Yeah, which came into your script that you're like, this doesn't suit me or my character. You would say something. You're not gonna.
I just don't play it that. You know, I always think about Wendy Crewson when she was coming up. Obviously the women were very accessorized. They were just wife of, girlfriend of, and they were just, and she was like, I just refuse to play them that way. She's like, so I'll go in, they've written it this way, I just refuse to play her that way. and I'll go in and I'll give them
Mm-hmm.
that option, and I might not get it, but they're going to see this and they're going to hear this. And that, if that's all I left, that's what I'll do. And so I think about it that way. There are a lot of things where they're written very stereotypically and I loathe it, but I'm going to go in and give them the option that I can stand behind and I can look at myself for. And sometimes they'll say no. They'll be like, no, this one's accented. And then I go, okay, then I'm not coming in for that. And I think through that is the only way for me to go about it. Sometimes if it's a lot, then yeah, you do say something and you say, this doesn't reflect, or can we change this? Actually, one of the things I'm proudest of, I think in episode 1, we had a client that we just kind of mentioned we never see. And it was just a very generic sort of like, probably like Anglo-Saxony name. And I was like, can I give you a list of alts? And I gave them all of these names that were very much more in BIPOC communities. And the name that we eventually went with was Hernandez. And I was like, yes, that's a huge win for me. Like, that's the stuff where I'm like, yes, okay, I feel good about this day. Today was a good day.
Yeah, I get it.
Hernandez.
Yeah, honestly, those little things, because I was like, yeah, this can exist in several communities, but it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And so that stuff I do like that. And, you know, like, that's small, but to me it means a lot.
Small, but it's mighty. Like,
I
think it's important.
The hundreds of thousands of viewers that have a brother Hernandez or an uncle Hernandez, or like to suddenly where it's personalized on a level that I think that so many people take for granted. Like to hear a name that sounds familiar to you immediately identifies you and brings you in. It just makes you more committed to the show. It feels like you feel seen.
Yeah.
Even if
other people had to hear it too. Other people had to hear it and go, oh, they couldn't maybe clock out in that moment, or it's just different. Anything that hits the ear differently, I think, is good. But yeah, I was proud of that moment.
Do you feel like that's...
I want to pivot.
Oh yeah, you go, Amanda.
I want to pivot because I don't want to run out of time. I want to know, because I didn't know that you had started directing.
Oh, I was going to go there anyway, Bruegel.
Well, I'm there. Why and when did you start, and how was it, and or were you scared? And go.
Yeah, we want to know all about your directing experience, because I love that you're directing.
Yeah, I feel like I always kind of like directed almost myself, like in self tapes. You know, I guess I just didn't think about it really as directing. I'm just like very curious about why humans do what they do. And then I fell into this program where we had a little bit, I think we had $1,000 basically, where we could do it. And I was very keen on like getting it to both reflect a little bit more of the world that I existed in. And I really wanted my crew to be all women. And that was a really fantastic experience. A lot of people were like, why you got to do that? And it was very interesting to hear some people kind of like push back on that idea. But I found
what does that mean? What does that like? Why do you like? Why do you have to direct?
Oh no, they were like, why is your crew got to be all women? Because I was soliciting, I was like writing to friends, being like, hey, do we know a gaffer who's, you know, like, did anyone but yeah, I got pushback, and I think it's like when spaces change for people where they haven't always been changed, or they were centered a little bit more, and their experience was different. I think it's big for them. Whereas like, I think if you always existed in that space, you just knew that's where you existed. That's where the world put you. So yeah, it's different, but it was interesting to hear that pushback from folks. What
was that experience like directing? Like, was there anything that rocked your world, and what did you learn about yourself in that process?
I learned I'm a terrible sleeper already, but it just consumed my brain. And I would wake up sometimes at like, you know, like 4 a.m. and be like, that idea, what do I do with that moment? And like, there's just so many things. Like at any point you have like 80 different options open to you, and you're the one that has to choose, you know, like it's all on you. I remember that day, I think that night, I was like so exhilarated. I was so excited. And then I think that night I like woke up in the middle of the night with like anxiety, like palpitations, because I think I really hadn't eaten properly too. I was just like running around and on adrenaline and being like, we got to get all of this done. And I'm so excited. And then you forget about your human body in space afterwards, which this is, to be fair, that's a lesson I feel like I've learned a lot in this industry, which I'm
Like eating? Don't forget
Oh
to
no,
eat?
just like self-care of the body, which
Right.
I feel like maybe Amanda and I maybe talked
Yeah.
about at some point a while
But that's
back.
so
But
interesting with your background, Grace. Like I think like, because did you study naturopath
yeah, it's almost like I was interested in that because often I was such a mess, like
Right.
and wouldn't respect it. That it's like if I give myself more knowledge,
yeah.
you try your
That's
best,
feeding
right?
myself in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, just
Yeah.
I'm curious. I mean, I'm curious about it. That like I'm very, very interested in it. But this is a hard business for self-care, and what y'all spoke about at the top in terms of like that go go go. I've been like that my whole life, and I'm really looking for a turn. I'm really looking for a pivot because I'm like, life exists outside of work, and I want
It really does.
It really does, and it's what the work is based on, like but
Yeah,
so
if your
yeah.
life tank is empty, we got nothing to pull from.
It's the only, if I didn't have children, I would be institutionalized. I know that, and I know it sounds funny. I really do think I really do think that I would. They cause today I've had to split focus from here to my children, and today is a fun and a light day. But I think about how I'm just so sometimes hyper focused on this business that they force you to move. Like this business is wild, like what Grace said, and unless you fill your tank and are constantly evolving as a human outside of this business, what are we giving to the business when we come back to our craft? We have nothing to give.
Yeah,
So
there's
hard.
that, but like I also like, yeah, I mean, still my work folder on in my Gmail is like still work to live, to always just be like clock that in. But like last year I spent 75% of my year away from my home. I didn't go back. I spent a quarter of the year. My friends, like it's difficult for all your relationships, like moving around, and I wasn't even in the same place for 75% of the year. And in that way, it's just like, but also like it's great. It's a blessing to have work that you're excited about and work with great people. But it is hard on you, your life as an individual, and so you can only feel so much, because it's almost like, actually also I did this with my hair, because I was like, last year was so much of belonging, I feel like, to different productions, being on loan almost, that I was like, I need to do something where it's like I feel like my body and my person belongs to me. And yeah, one of my friends had like he did something like that and he called it a crisis platinum. Like I was like, this is my crisis plot, so but I love it. And sometimes I think you have to do that, because that space is so hard. Like business is often fleeting, and it's unstable, and it can be sometimes not the best relationship, like with your work life. And you just have to keep creating such strong boundaries to be able to carve out that your life exists outside of just work, and feeding your work is what I'm feeling in my life, at least. Yeah.
So other than dyeing your hair blonde, what's the thing that you do that, like, because you don't have kids unless something's really changed since we last spoke. Okay. So there's nothing to keep us, like, I don't have kids either. So what's the thing that demands from us to balance? Because your kids, Amanda, demand that. There's no choice. They just go, we're kids, you have to look after us. But Grace, you and I don't have that. What do you put into place?
We do ourselves. I demand that.
I'm the kid.
I demand that. I think my world has always revolved against someone else telling me what to do. And now I'm like, this is up to me. And that's harder, because then I have to choose it. Much like directing, I have to choose it. What do I like? Like, it's been so busy the last couple of years. I'm like, I don't know what I like anymore. And that is messed up. Like, what do I like? So
what do you mean? What do you like? Like in
what do I enjoy? I honestly have been like on loan, on loan to like, when I lived in Toronto, I loved, one of my favorite things to do was cycling. I would cycle all year round. I would bike all year round, and it made me very happy. And now, so I've recently got into climbing, and I really, really love that. Like I love road trips, and for a while that was really shut down. Travel was really shut down. That was something I couldn't, get. I want to have like adventures. I want my people to be the loves of my life. And society feels mixed things about that, like, And I'm trying to find those things and eke out space, because there's really just not. There's so much time spent living online or showing that you're living. And I don't know, I just want to like feel that. I just want to feel that for real and find the stuff that I really enjoy for myself, not because someone else told me I had to do it or it was good for my job, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you feel? People don't even know this about you with your time in UK, because you have been traveling. This has been like a lifetime of traveling for you. It feels like you're in Los Angeles now, though, right?
Yeah. But yeah, no, the UK was like a dream I always had. I grew up on British comedy. Like it was what I loved. It was
Which ones?
Well, I love actually I always listen to like a lot of like panel shows, like their radio shows. Like I listened to so much Just a Minute. I would like scour online to see if I could find more. And like, so I grew up kind of like really idolizing a lot of like their comedians. And I loved the way that their people looked like people in their film and television. And I loved if there was, at the time, it was like, if it was an interracial couple, that the story wouldn't have been about like how great that, like sometimes they would just exist in space and it wouldn't be a story to teach all of us about. You like, I really love that. I love people that look like normal humans. It made me feel like this is a world that like I see and I can exist in. Whereas like, North American television always felt like beautiful people doing things. And I'm like, this is nice, I guess, but this doesn't feel like the world to me, you know? So I mean, I loved it. I didn't know anyone when I showed up. And I remember my first flat was with my 3 roommates. I had 3 Catalan roommates from Barcelona. And they were like, oh, come with us to the bar. And I was like, okay. And then I went there and then they all had friends. So they all went to talk to them. And I was standing here in this bar in Shoreditch, I think. And I was just like, well, Grace, if you don't talk to anyone, you are going to stand here awkwardly all night. So you better get talking or it's going to be the most painful night of your life. And then you just start doing that. Like, that's why, like, I've always been shy, and that's me when I'm just by myself. But I think just because it's like, well, you have to do this other thing is going to be so much worse. you just do that, and then you kind of move on. You need community. You need to find people London is a hostile, quick moving space, you know? So
yeah.
But then I made amazing friends in the end.
It's so interesting to me of you describing yourself as shy.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
When I first met you, and even like you're anything but shy, like anything but, it would be probably the last word that I would use to describe you.
It's funny because it's like, well, I'm used to that you know what it is? It's almost like it's my desire I know what it's like to be uncomfortable and have no one talk to me. So when I'm in a group setting, sometimes I am so concerned about being like a good host. I'll talk to anybody. Like I'll try to, you know, like, but like for the other day I went climbing and there was like this group of basically BIPOC climbers where they were just like, let's just get together. And so I didn't know anyone. I just showed up and I was like a bit late. So I missed, I guess, an intro. And I was like that person who was basically like, had a name tag on me and just being like, hi, you know, like those, like that is me by myself. And I feel like despite that, this job is actually this occupation has like created a different space where I have to exist differently. And I can do it if I'm advocating for someone else. That's no problem, because that feels like it's something I like. A goal, which is why I think sometimes the work is so great for shy people, because you have a goal. So it's not just you by yourself at a climbing gym with a name tag on. It's you serving an idea, a person that if you're passionate about, then that drives you, and it overrides the fear. So the drive of like standing here awkwardly, which is so painful for 3 hours while my friends talk to other people, is worse. So the not wanting to do that is powered through by the other thing. It's just like, talk to people, and other people feel awkward too. And you're like, okay, well, we'll be less awkward together.
So with everything that you've got on your creative plate right now, are you going to do more directing? Like, can you carve out space for that? What's the thing that you're really jazzed about next?
I would love to, but I think maybe unrealistic unless I'm writing it here in LA right now. I'm really trying to do more voice. I think if I have a big dream, it's like to do a major role in a video game. I tested for one last year, and it was the first time I got to like be in like the volume for a full day of like chemistry reads with the whole setup, and I was like in dreamland. Like that, I think is the thing I want to do the most right now. I would love to do that. And voice for me is like, I've been working on a voice equity project with a friend of mine, and because actually it was just 2020 when a lot of white actors, some of them left, but it became like Alison Brie, Jenny Slate, and like many others who they all made, and Kirsten Bell, and like they all made public statements, but many did not. And I mean, the man who played Cleveland for like 20, I mean, we all Apu was like 3 decades or something. So that's a big thing that like I really care about, that I'm hoping to try and get some advocacy movement on. It's very slow going because we don't have money and we're working with academics, but data is very slow and not everybody wants to talk to you about it or give you that information. So yeah, but I think voice is like a big thing for me. That feels like a next frontier, so to speak. It's a funny thing.
What is it about voice you like? Because it's so scary to me.
What?
And
Amanda
I
Burgos
admire,
not scared of anything.
No, I'm scared of voice actors. I'm so impressed by them. You go in a booth and you're able to just, I'm so impressed by them. And then for the very limited voice auditions or experiences I've had, no, it's like stand-up comedians. No. Yeah, I'm so impressed by voice performers. So impressed. I just want to know what it is about
if you
it.
watch people who are good at it, you're like, I need to sit down.
No.
I can't do this. They're too good. They're so talented.
Julie Lemieux,
just like that.
Incredible.
Like Eric Bauza, who actually just won for Bugs Bunny, who's the only BIPOC artist that I think like kind of like existed that I knew of for a while, but he's Canadian actually, but he's the new Bugs Bunny and he's like Marvin Martian, all of these things.
Linda Valentine, it's amazing because they're muscles though, right? Like I do a little bit of cartoons, but people like Linda Valentine,
I know you do,
that are they just drop into it.
They're different.
I don't know. I go into voiceover
humans.
stuff and just be like, I hope they don't fire me from this one. Keep crossing my fingers and start talking outside of the side of my mouth. But like, it's just muscles. Like if you did it, Amanda, you'd be an expert on it next week because you just have that kind of ability.
That's not true. You just, but like, how do you do it? Now we're in a voice class. How do you? It's so much for me about connecting with another human being. I don't care what the lines are. Yeah. How are you so good at like reading it and then connecting to it and making that real? How do you do that? Genuinely, like how?
What? How do you do it?
There's so many things that are going that are so. I leave the chat. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out because I am in admiration. And mostly I've done video games. Feel like they're an in between for me because video games I still feel like I understand.
It's in your body.
So the other day I went back to a character that I had done before. And we did an about face. Like all of a sudden the voice I had done the first time, they had, redone some things. I can't talk about it too much because there's always so much NDA stuff, but like we really like flipped the voice. It was like a whole different person. And at some point he was like, are we sure we got the same voice actor? And I was like, oh my God, that's the best compliment ever. Because the people who are really good at voice, they sound like different people all the time. And you go, that can't be. What kind of magic are you working with? What did you promise? Some like, like fucking Ursula, whatever. Like, what did you promise? What did you trade for this talent? Like, and it's so difficult. I feel like every time I'm in there and I've jumped in a really deep pool and I'm just trying to survive, but it's also exhilarating when you're like, was that a little better? Like it's interesting when you're trying to fit together the pieces and you're like, is this getting better? But then like half the time I think you're just submitting tapes into the void and you're like,
I know.
And you can't, there's no bounce back and you literally have no idea where you are. So I think voice is really challenging that way because it also seems like it's so much more open, but it's you know, like, I don't know, you literally can't see what's going on.
I know what you mean that by that connecting thing though, Amanda. It is weird because in the booth you just have the line before you and you have to nope. I was at, have you ever gone to one of the
Nope, I've been asked to leave. I've been asked to leave. Like they're like, I swear to God, they've said no thank you, and I said I agree with you. Good night.
Good day to you.
I know. No.
It's like telling the party story that you always tell, right? Because you have it at your fingertips. You know the voice that you do when you tell the story about the bus driver that talked to you like this.
Well,
you know those things. It's
Eric Bauza talks about how it's like or one of them, I watched a lot of voice docs for the Equity Project, and I was like, it's amazing because it's not only like, first you can affect the voice. So maybe you can sound like Bugs Bunny, but can you sound like Bugs Bunny if Bugs Bunny is reading the US Constitution and then he's a little bit constipated and like, you know, like all these things on top of like that. If you can't do that, then you can't do it. And that's what's so difficult, you know, like it's all of those things on top. There's one thing like the party trick, if you can show up and you be like, I can sound just like Trump, you know, like, but like, can you do,
whoa, I
know,
like Trump on this panel.
You know, oh my God, there's so many people who can do Trump far too well, and it's not great.
Yeah.
But
like, really wants to do Trump in any way.
It honestly, it like triggers my body when I hear it. But yeah, it's like, it's truly amazing how people do that. I do find like, so if it's a video game session, all you see is the lines, and oftentimes you don't even have the artwork. So you have no idea what you look like. They're giving you adjectives in space. But what is often helpful in a good session is the director will tell you what the character has said before, and they'll often say it and just then lead you into it. And that helps because that's just the imagination. That's what I grew up loving about this business, is because it really was, you have to imagine. Self-tapes are like that all the time. So for me, that makes a lot of sense because I can always hear, I always know what I'm reacting to. And I have, maybe that's a director brain visually, where it's like, I can picture what that looks like. I can picture being in that space. I can move my body as if I'm in that space. And then the line makes sense to me. Sometimes animation is tough because it feels like they don't read the lines in between and you're going so fast. They only want your lines. So sometimes it feels like there isn't that space to let.
Wait a second. There's no, with animation, you don't get to have a dialogue. You just say your lines.
Yeah, anyone that I've ever done or like audition that I've ever done, they just want my lines.
No,
and
thank you. No, thank you, says Amanda Brugel.
Oh my God.
But like that's difficult, right? Because that feels like
it's difficult.
But it's just, I mean, it's generating, right? Like, okay, the next time we three get together, let's make this into a cartoon the next time. And we'll be
no, forget it. Amanda's not in.
No, I don't like it. Listen, I'm upsetting me, and we gotta go. We gotta wrap it up soon. And
did you say I'm upsetting me? I'm upsetting me. Wait, just give me this before you wrap it up, because I know you want to wrap it up, Brugel. But just give me the voice you do when you're being silly with your kid.
No,
come on, give me the voice.
No,
Grace, give me the voice.
Give us a dog. Give us a pet voice. If you like pet voice, like if you like talking to pets.
Like what's your voice of your cat?
Oh wait, I know how to bark like a dog. Wait, watch this.
She's jumping out of this. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Grace, what's your animal voice? Like, do you have an animal in your life?
Oh yeah, I saw one of my friends. I always was like, "Hello, you meat muppet. Hello. Oh, you're looking good. You want a hot dog? You want a hot dog?"
See, it's his animal voices. My 20-year-old dog goes like this. I think I'd like a round of Sudoku followed by my stories, because he's 20 years old. I just want to play Sudoku. Thank you very much. Amanda, come on, tell me your cat doesn't have a voice.
I don't want to do it. I don't like it. This has been one of our more sort of seriously pseudo-intellectual conversations descending into animal voices. So it just makes sense that it's
That's my brand.
Perfect. Friends. We're right on track.
That's what you get when you get Grace. That's what you get. Grace, we do a thing. You're such a pleasure. You're such a pleasure. We do a thing. I mean, are we going to make her do this? Yeah, let's make her
100%. Everybody does 10 blazing questions. Okay. We're asking everybody the same questions, and we're going to ask you.
Oh, lightning round?
Yeah, it's sort of lightning round.
Yes.
Okay.
But you've already gotten all of them right. I'm just warning you. Okay, Brugel, you did.
You've already won. What is your least favorite word?
Oh God.
Is she free? Is she here? Oh, she's here.
My instinct was to say stop, but that's not coming from my brain. That's just coming from my body.
Oh,
Oh,
That sounds terrible.
I think
But
that's
I didn't
still
want to
good.
say it.
no, I like that answer. That's a
I
new
do
one.
too. I do
Yeah.
too. Are you happy, Grace? Can we move on?
Mhm. We check it. We checking? We
Yeah,
check it?
check. Yep.
Okay.
Finals.
Like, am I going to stick with it?
We're
That
gonna-
was my
we're gonna
gut instinct, but I just don't. I don't.
Go with your gut.
There's
I'm sorry,
implications there.
I think it's I understand. I understand the challenges with that word, but I also
Yeah.
understand where you're coming from. Let's move on. Hey, who would you
Yes.
love to work with? Present company excluded.
Who would I love to work with? Oh my God, Pedro Pascal.
You
You
took
know
it.
what?
Oh, I saw that.
Because Pedro
Why?
looks like Pedro is always fangirling over whatever cool shit he is
Ever.
doing. I fell in love with
Ever.
him when he did a Community during the pandemic, had like a table read essentially, and he just kept laughing at everybody else's jokes, and he would lose his he just loves to, his laugh makes me happy, and he's still, even though he's on the coolest stuff in the world, he is still like a fangirl about it, and I love that. I love that energy. I love him.
To me, he seems like he's always in shock, but not in shock that he's there. He seems very, because when he drops in, he drops in. But he always seems like he's just so, like he's like a non-actor that strolled in on set and is just like,
he got invited. He can't believe he got invited to the party, and the party's for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
really
love that
cool.
energy.
Yeah.
I love that energy. I would absolutely love to work with him. Yeah.
Love it. Me
Me
too.
too. Okay.
Frugal.
3 words. No one asked you. 3 words to describe your life right now.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh my
Took this
goodness.
many interviews before that
Okay.
came out.
Confused, searching.
You are searching. So
Cautiously hopeful.
I'm
Hopeful.
gonna allow the extra word.
Oh.
What creatively turns you on?
Passion.
I like that. What's one thing that makes you feel powerful?
When people are truly listening.
Oh my God, I want to say what so badly right now as a joke. I'm not going to say it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you can include it in the section when I said stop. That's okay.
Grace, how do you think people see you?
It's just funny when people are like, I feel like you're not shy, you know, that kind of stuff. Like when you actually hear that people, their reflections of you. I think people think I'm far more confident than I am. And the people who know me much more deeply know how unresolved I am about so many things about myself. But I don't know. I think most people think I'm more together than I am, or that I don't care as much as I do. I think that one. Yeah.
Ooh, that's very intuitive, very insightful. Just to know that about yourself. Naomi just threw that question in today, and I like that question, Naomi.
You know why? Because it came from our chat, Bruegel.
I don't remember it.
So. I'm just like volleying the compliment back to you. Go on, next one.
Best advice you ever got.
And worst advice.
Oh, I like that. I don't know if I got this advice, but the most important lesson I ever learned in this business is the power of no and the importance of saying no.
Another word for no might be stop. Just saying.
Yeah.
What's the worst advice?
To try and figure out what other people want. And I think that goes across life. I'm trying to learn that internally, but I think that's probably the worst advice. in the world.
What next one? Oh yeah, you have something, Bruegel? You want to say something?
I'm here. One song that moves you. One song that has moved, like that's your go-to song, or just moves you immediately.
Oh, there's one that I've been listening to lately. That's called "Everything I Am Is Yours," and it's by Villagers.
Ooh, who's that by? Look that up.
Yeah, and I might have discovered it on the series Normal People, but I have really been feeling that lately. I put it on
I
repeat.
love that series.
Yes. Paul Mescal is another person I would die to work with.
Yes.
Again, because they just seem like really great humans. I love people who seem like really interesting human beings.
Next question. Here we go. What do you want to be reincarnated as? Yeah, I'm moving on.
Reincarnated as, do you live that whole life, or like if I were picked a food, would I get eaten? But that would be
choice. Dealer's
too.
choice there. Whatever you want to have happen.
Oh, okay. A tree.
That's nice. And finally, other than loved ones, friends, family, what would you give it all up for?
Give what up for?
That's a good question.
Hey, we'll ask the questions around here, Grace.
No one's ever done that.
You know what? Classic Grace, putting a question
classic
back to
Grace.
Question.
Classic.
Question.
The thing is, we asked this question, but I don't think anybody would give up anything for anything. Like, look at our life. It's so good.
I mean, it matters what I'm giving up, right?
Okay, like all that you've worked for.
Like work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like all that's important to you right now, what would you give it up for?
No, not work, but the things that are important to me, other than my family, my loved ones.
Yeah.
What would I give work up for? An honest and connected, adventurous life. Yeah, that's a worthy trade-off.
Love it.
That's the most honest one we've had.
Yeah.
Grace, it's just been a goddamn pleasure.
Wait, before you try to wrap up again, Amanda, we always do like a little shout out to other folks in our life that we want to shine a light on. So we sort of take this light and shine it onwards. So I've got somebody that I know you will love. Mine, we do 3. So you have a second to think about it, Grace. Mine is Lisa Barry.
Yes.
Right? Lisa Barry
from
Supernatural, from Black Beauty coming up. She just created something with Natalie Brown called Baby Daddy that Matt and I were in, that it's so funny and so good. Shadowhunters, she was in Shadowhunters. She's also like a spiritual life coach, but she just does things with such friggin' heart and love. Like you can't have dinner with her without coming away going, oh, I am loved. I am so loved. And her child is just this little being of love. Anyway, I'm a Lisa Barry fan for days.
That's wonderful. Mine is a shout out to Maxine Bailey. She is the creative director of the CFC. She was at TIFF for a long time. Cameron Bailey of TIFF fame, sister. She's so smart and so funny and cares so much about the film and television business and cares so much about, moving voices forward. And like what Grace touched upon, just the idea of just placing more people in positions of power that can make decisions, that can get things created, not just the sort of the puppets, meat sockets that we are. We're more than meat sockets, but just like putting players in real power positions. That was a lot of P's.
You're going to have to be careful because we're not just meat sockets is going to end up in a t-shirt somewhere with your name underneath it. And I will wear it to a red carpet event, 100%.
I'm just saying, I know what Grace was saying. I agree with the idea that we're slowly getting power, but it's not enough.
Sure. We're not just meat puppets. Sure.
Yeah.
Grace?
Yeah. We want all the biscuits. Is this specific to Canada or
anywhere? In your life,
okay,
alive or dead. It's somebody who you want to shine light on.
My friend Bianca Santos, who I worked with, I met on a film in Chicago. It was like this murder mystery that we shot
That's cool.
last year, that's coming out in April. And she also was on Grey's Anatomy recently. Was she on the Fosters? I just met another Fosters friend of hers, Maddie, and just like, she was my climbing pal the first time I went in Los Angeles. We went together, and we have just been. She's been doing like the artist way, and we've just promised ourselves to do 3 things that we've never done before, and rock climbing was one of them. And I love that split of like real life, work life, and I find she's like an inspirational balance for me, as well as like just a wonderful person. So we've got the film coming out. It's called Invitation to a Murder, and she's really killing it.
And when does it come out again?
It comes out April 25th. April 25th, and her film that she just created was just at the Pan-African Film Festival here, I think, or something. I'll figure out what it's called, but look her up. She's great. Bianca Santos.
Well, you're pretty great yourself,
Cool.
Grace Lynn Kung.
Pretty damn great.
And I also have to say
just a
thank you,
delight.
because guaranteed I will get a guaranteed text on our anniversary from Grace. It's the most random thing ever. I just always get a love you guys, happy anniversary.
That matters.
So
the special
It matters
day
to me. It's so sweet that you
It's
do
a
that. You
special
remember
day.
us every time. It's so sweet.
One day, like we said, we'll all be dead.
Oh.
And you're never going to regret sending a text to celebrate somebody's important day.
Yeah. Well, Matt loved working with you, and we're very
Who's
lucky.
Matt?
Well, he's off. I should give you this background before, but he's a guy I live with. He's my traveling companion.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right.
I love that. I love that descriptor
Grace.
for a partner, a traveling companion. I like that.
Thank you so
what it
much.
is.
Grace, it's such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you both so much. I love this hair continuity between us.
I mean, there's
So
something
do
very
I.
special.
I love it as
If
well.
a producer doesn't see this and write a show based on this alone, there's something wrong with the world. I love you, Grace.
Take care, honey. Have a wonderful day.
Mwah.
And thank you for teaching me that 8 + 5 is 13 today, Amanda Burkle.
I had to count.
You're welcome.
Lovely.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye, Grace. Thank you.
You too.
For folks that are
What a
listening, she
damn
has a
genius.
blackboard. What
Okay.
a damn genius. She's so smart.
All right. What did you learn?
Oh, okay. I should be thinking about this as we're doing, but there's so much.
I'll go first. I
okay, thank
learned
you.
that I love the idea of not sort of labeling people and labels, and why do we make them, and not sticking to them to have them define us, and that it tells a story, and just the idea of not necessarily having to stick to labels of whether it be about age or genre or person or space, and just the idea of being more fluid. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the thing I'm resonating with that is resonating in my brain is the importance of Wong and Winchester as opposed to Winchester and Wong, and like how important that she's fought for that number one, and
Me too.
and that it hasn't been in her dream list, and that it is in there, and that she's like, she's leading the way with this.
And
right?
I genuinely watched the show and loved it. And the idea that I typed it out wrong and I did research on it, I think I made it up.
What?
I don't know why, but it's absolutely.
You're gonna have to give yourself some forgiveness over that one. And but I just love.
No,
don't you think about all the little
devastated.
like kids that are watching that and learning from her leadership right now? That's what I'm thinking about.
Yes.
Because 20, 30 years
Yes.
ago, there was no such show called Wong and Winchester.
No, 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
It matters.
You're right. You're right.
All right. Where do we go when we want to see me or her or you?
I know what you're trying to do, and I love you for it because
I got to go back to the school.
All right, listen, if you want to go over and find out more about Grace, go at Grace Lynn Kung. And of course, Firecracker DEPT is where you're going to find out all of our information on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Cuckoo Kachoo, which is a new platform a lot of people don't know about. And then if you want more information,
sponsored by the Firecracker Department.
The Cuckoo Kachoo platform. The Blaze Sessions is what we are, and it's hashtagged, and you're going to want to find out all about us. Firecrackerdepartment.com for all the podcasts. Of course, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can subscribe, like it, share it. You know what? Review it. I dare you. I dare you to review it. That's right. I threw that down. Amanda,
I gotta go
and finish your job.
I love you.
Chaperone to your children. And I can't wait to see all the photos.
I can't take photos of children.
I just love saying things that you're shocked by. I love you so much. Have a great afternoon. Congratulations.
I'll see you next week. Good job. Congratulations.
Bye. The Blaze Session is hosted and produced by myself, Naomi Sneakus, and Amanda Brugel. Jennifer Morose is our consulting producer and cheerleader extraordinaire. Pal Carranza is our communications manager and content creator, with support from Chelsea McKenzie and Morgan Walker. Original graphics by Vicky Breyer-Breer and Becca Buddygag. Anna Moroden is our firecracker of all trades, with doing our YouTube artistic management, our newsletter, and also content creation. Jennifer Rowley is our amazing sound designer and basically editing wizard. Rebecca Gismani does our show notes and additional writing. Sedna Fiati does our outreach and consultation management. Shrishti Jaiswal is our video editor. Music by Sophia Canali and Arthur Kaplan. Big thanks to the entire Firecracker Department Actioneer team that keep this community going. That's Veronica Martin, Anita McFarlane, Pau Carranza, and Liesl Lafferty. For more information about the Blaze Sessions or the programs, workshops, panels that are offered through the Firecracker Department, go to firecrackerdepartment.com and follow us at FirecrackerDEPT on all your platforms. If you enjoyed our episode today, leave a comment or maybe something one of our guests said really sparked some inspiration. We'll share this episode with a friend. And if you didn't like the episode, you know what? Just keep it to yourself. No one likes a complainer. Now go on out there, take some creative action, and then share it with the Firecracker Department community. We'd love to hear what you're working on. Bye for now.
Hi, this is Veronica Martin, Head of Firecracker Mentorship. Thanks for listening to the Blaze Sessions.